Good afternoon. This is Dr. Dennis L. Wood Sr. I am recording. Today is the 29th of December 2021. We have talked and been, of course, as I said before, been recording for a bit. And this is really a different new time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a page, perhaps a few pages for the podcast. And what we're going to do with this is that we're going to make it available for individuals to actually be able to download from pages the various podcasts, because right now what I have them, the way that I have them, can be a bit confusing as to how to make them work for you, how to make them work for you. And so I'm talking to you really from the standpoint, not as just someone who is podcasting. I'm talking to you as someone who is a coach. Now, as I said before, I'm a coach from the standpoint of that I've been to school for it, I've taken courses for it, I've done the John Maxwell executive training group that he has in order to learn how to coach individuals, and then also doing the School of Walking University and of course the PhD program in industrial organizational psychology with a specialty in executive leadership development and coaching. And so on top of that, of course, been a minister since 1982, a professional minister, if you want to call it that. That just simply means that I went to school in order to study so that I can understand what it meant to be a minister in this day and time. And then also, of course, a student of the Bible, which basically means that I learned how to read, to study the original languages initially, and then just simply enjoyed that entire process. And one of the things that I learned to do, because I needed to do it really, with the family that I had and everything like that, the prayers that I needed to pray for myself, for the parishioners that I had. And I needed to understand how to pray. It was vital for me to understand how to pray in order to be an effective minister. And so I did what I called then the ABCs of prayer. Now, I say to people, I don't mind saying to anyone that prior to becoming a minister, I worked in corporate America. I tell individuals that I worked for a company initially. That company, when I worked for them, was called CMP Telephone Company. That now I got a few years on me, of course, and I worked with CMP. It was later called Bell Atlantic, and then it was still later called Verizon. That was a company, and I actually worked for all three of them. My experiences with God are myriad. And I'll tell anyone that prior to, now this is fact, and this is just my walk with God. Prior to 2001, this is an experience with God, how God has worked with me. Prior to 2001, I was actually back. I had served as a minister, and then in 1997 we started our spiritual center, as we call it, our church, if you will. It was called Spirit of Victory and Praise Community Church, Spirit of Victory and Praise Community Church, in 1997, when I left the organized or the traditional church that I was a part of, and started an independent church, if you will. And it was called Spirit of Victory and Praise Transformational Leadership Institute, is a school that we have. But prior to that, we just simply had the church, Spirit of Victory and Praise Community Church. And I was working there while at the same time I went back to work for what was then CMP Telephone Company, and then it became Bell Atlantic. And then while it was Bell Atlantic in 2001, around August of 2001, I was in one one of the Twin Towers in New York City. I was in one of them. The reason we were there was that my unit that I was working with, one of my supervisors was named Carol, another one was named Dave, and we were there to receive an award. We were there. I think if I remember correctly, we were like on the 10th floor or something to that effect. Don't remember exactly what floor we were on, but we were up. And we were there to receive an award. This was in August 2001. This was August 2001. And of course, you know, 9/11, 2001, that was when the towers came down. And so after that, when those towers came down, I prayed and I spoke the Spirit, and we had a conversation about what had occurred. And I was just impressed that I needed to be better serving spirit by simply being focused a bit more on being a person who was involved more in ministry. Now, what does ministry have to do with coaching? Well, actually, I say to individuals, I see ministry as a type of coaching in itself. It is the build up of a person, in my estimation. Now, please understand that from where I sit, I think they're related. I'm not the first one that thought that both psychology and ministry or spirituality, not just religion. Now, religion is just a set of rituals, or just a set of practices, in my estimation. You can look this up if you like, but I'm trying to give you an understanding of how it is that we're working with you so that it's just not a set of rituals, and it's not just going to church to see one's friends or anything like that. We're not doing that really in what we're seeking to do here. What we're seeking to do is to build an individual up. Build an individual up. What do we mean by that? What we really mean by that is that the human, according to the biblical record, is built, made in the image and likeness of God. It is made in the image and likeness of God. And you could also, if you want to do it from a psychological standpoint, there is the theories of individuals such as Abraham Maslow when he talks about the aspect of this aspect of what he calls self-actualization. And he has, if you look him up, Abraham Maslow, Maslow, he talks about this aspect of self-actualization. And this is the aspect of that there's a set of needs that the human needs. And they start off with something like survival needs, and then there are physical needs. And then as the individual accomplishes or meets all of those particular needs, he arrives at the point, or she arrives at the point where there are higher level needs that the person has. But the ultimate need is to actually become who that individual really is at his or her core. And that's what's called self-actualization. And so when I speak of the building up, becoming your best self, your authentic self, whatever you want to call that, being the best that you are in whatever it is that you're doing, that's the same thing for me as when we talk about becoming your Christ self or becoming your Buddha self, if you use that language or whatever. It is really arriving at the point that you are being much bigger, transcending really even the physical part of you and living as a spiritual person made in the image and likeness of God. And when people are playing various games and things like that, they talk about being in the flow and moving to that space where you remember that song. If you are old enough to remember, I am. There was a song that was sung, I believe, by the person named Whitney Houston, where it says, give me one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be. And when you think of athletes, that particular idea, well, that's possible for all of us. So that's what we're talking about building a person up. There was a person named Jim Collins, I believe his name was. He wrote a book about organizations speaking about this, because when you have a group of individuals functioning as one, then it talks about going from good to great. good to great. He spoke about the aspect of functioning as one, working as a unit, functioning as one. And that this whole piece, whether it is an organization, whether it is a country, whatever it may be, functioning as one. And so that's where I see this aspect of the idea of growing. This is what we're involved with. Helping the person become who he or she was destined to be before the foundation of the world. And where did I get that before the foundation of the world? Well, I get it from a number of verses that are in the Bible. That's my point of reference, by the way, and I read other books as well. But in the Bible, there's that statement as I use it from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you and ordained you a prophet unto the nations. And so there is this divine destiny that each person has that I believe is true for every individual. We're all here on purpose. We're all here on purpose. And therefore that means that none of us are accidents of the divine. We're not accidents of the divine. So the intent of this is that a person will discover their divine destiny and then they would pursue their divine destiny. And then there are tools that a person uses in order to bring about that divine destiny. And those tools were the tools that I initially discovered as I lived as a minister, especially because of the aspect of needing not only to be a better person myself, but also to share that with other individuals. And so I went deeper and deeper and deeper. And I discovered those principles both as a minister, but I had also discovered them as I read the books of individuals like Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. He had a book that was called The Power of Positive Thinking. I read that book when I was working for the Bell System, as it is called. I read that book, and I stood in front of a mirror every day, prior to going to work. I stood there in the morning, and I said, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And I did it 10 times. That was the recommendation that I read in that book. And then at night, before I went to bed, I did it again. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And I did that 10 times. And I did it for years. I did it for years. And it made a difference in my income and in my attitude, all of those in my life. It made a difference in my lifestyle and in not only my being, but in my doing and in my having. It made a difference. And so for an individual who has in mind that they would like something different than what they already have, they would like something different as to who they are, they would like something different in regard to what they do, then all of those things come into play in what we're talking about here. And so how does that fit into what I'm talking about when it comes to aspect of, say, a person like Neville Goddard? Well, honestly, to tell you the truth, my understanding now is that what I was doing was changing my mind. What was I changing my mind about? Well, I remember that when I was initially, when I was took a test to discover what I could do for the Bell System. For when I was initially getting a job, I was offered a job which was paying a very, very high salary comparatively. As I said to the individual who offered me the job, the lowest paying job they had on the list after I had taken the test was paying more than I was making presently. And so I was willing to take that job, but that person had offered me the highest paying job. That job involved my initially going out and actually having conversations with business people. So it was business to business marketing or selling or whatever you wanted to call it. But when I went to do the role play that was involved with that, I had never done that before, role play in a business setting. So I did not have the mindset for that. I spent too much of the time looking in the book that they had given to me about how to do that, or look for a piece of information that was inside of that book, rather than engaging the individual in the conversation. I needed a different mindset. And that's what I was doing when I was standing before that mirror. I was changing my mindset. As a matter of fact, there were other books that I read also. There was a book called How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in selling. I believe the writer of that book was a fellow named Frank Bettinger, something to that effect. And I read that book, and I believe if that was the book that had actually a mirror exercise where you practice before the mirror, that's still to this day, one of the best things that a salesperson or any presenter can actually do. They can go through a process where they actually practice their presentation. One of the best things that they can do is like shadow boxing for a presenter. They actually practice it and go through that process. So it's also the same thing as changing your consciousness, changing the way that you think about yourself, the way that you feel about yourself, and moving from the standpoint of feeling that you cannot do it to the thinking that you can do it, so that you feel differently. And then when you actually stand up or sit down in order to do your presentation, that you actually are able to do your presentation, whatever it is that you are doing. You have changed your thought because really you have already been there before you got there. You have already been there before you got there. And this was what was happening with me in regard to that. And again, as a result of my doing that, my income changed. The way that I looked at the world changed. Everything about me changed. And so this is what we're talking about in regard to that. This aspect of changing one's mind. Not just about what one is doing, but about who one is. So that you give a different answer. This is like the biblical statement that says, let the weak say, I am strong. Well, you could say, let the poor say, I'm rich. Let the sick say, I am well. As a matter of fact, there is one writer that says very clearly that the more you talk about it, the more you will have it to talk about. And so rather than talk about how sick you are or how bad you feel, if that's what's going on with you, why not stop talking about how bad it is or how bad you feel? Begin to talk about how good you will feel, desire to feel as if you already feel that way, and you will find that you will begin to feel better. This is how businessmen, by the way, find answers to their challenges. This is how creative people find new creations. They assume they already have whatever it is that they are looking for. This is how Einstein discovered the theory of relativity. He used another of Dr. Norman Vincent Peale's books that I read. It was Imagination, or Imagining was the title of his book. Visualization. He used visualization, and he imagined that he was riding a light wave. Imagine that he was riding a light wave, and it goes faster, I believe, than the speed of sound. And imagine that he was riding it. And then he came up with the formula for it, E equals MC squared. E equals the speed of light squared. And that's the theory of relativity, which says that energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. E equals MC squared. And that says things are relative. You can change energy into mass or into light. And that whole piece in regard to that. And it's affected by time. And we're still debating this aspect, many of us. still debating this aspect of whether time travel is real. It's an amazing discussion, is it not? And so all of these things come into play. We know that we can change the way we feel about the past, think about the past, all of those things. That's what we mean when we say consciousness is the only reality. Consciousness. It gives an individual this amazing power. And it says to the person that the one that's in charge of your life is you. That's an amazing power. The one that's in charge of your life and gives you the tools that make it possible for you to be in charge of your life, no matter where you are at this moment, because precedent does not control principle. So you can start from the moment that you realize that you want to change your life and begin changing your life, and your life will begin to change from that moment. Now, I want you to get this. Now, please, you might have to listen to this kind of stuff over and over and over again because it is so powerful. As a matter of fact, you might have to share it with somebody else. You might have to get the transcript and actually understand what I'm about to say right now. There is something about this. And again, it's written down. I've read so many individuals. I didn't understand it when I first heard it myself. When I first read it myself, honestly, I didn't. It just came to me. It was an idea. It was spirit. I wrote on the back of one of my books, this concept, this idea. I wrote on the back of my first book that I had done as a book, the Steps to Christ Study Workbook, I called it. And it talked about the aspect, the seed, it says the seed contained the acorn. The seed contained the acorn. Let me change that. The seed contained the oak tree. The acorn contained the oak tree. Now, this is a most powerful idea. Once you get it, the acorn contains the oak tree. In the biblical account, this idea is incorporated in the words Alpha and Omega. Alpha and Omega. You remember in the book of John, the disciple John, now the apostle John, if you want to call it that. In the book of Revelation, John has lived. He is now exiled to the Isle of Patmos. As far as we know, he is the last living disciple of Jesus Christ. All the others have either died natural deaths or have been killed, martyred. All of them, pretty much. And he is alone, and he is on an island. And John, it is said, I don't have the actual record or anything like that, but it is said that there had actually been attempts to kill him. But he had survived these attempts. Now he is there by himself. And the Bible says, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, is the way that it is written. He's there on this island by himself. And after living, it is said that John was perhaps the youngest of all the disciples of Jesus Christ when he followed Jesus Christ, when Jesus Christ walked the earth. And now, you can imagine he may be going through all kinds of things. Everybody he called friend perhaps has died from his younger years and all these other kinds of things. And now he's there. Some are saying that's a prison item. And he's there doing hard labor like breaking rocks or whatever. And he is there again. The text says, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. So he's just trying to get a little rest. And then there's this glorious sound that he hears, a voice behind him. And he turns around and he sees this person, a glorified individual that he describes. But it's when this person speaks and he says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Now, if you get this, it will be amazing. Because what this glorified being was Jesus Christ. And he's saying that I'm the beginning of the creation. And I'm the end, all in one being. The start of it and the end. The beginning and the end. The seed and the fruit. The start and the finish. I'm how it looks at the beginning. I am the completion of it. Alpha and Omega. So if John was wondering what the end of it all was going to be, here was Jesus Christ. I am the seed and I am the fruit. Seed and I am the fruit. I'm Alpha and Omega. I'm the idea, like when a architect or somebody comes with a dream to an architect, the architect sketches it out. Well, the dream, the idea, Edison speaks of this. The idea is there. The idea, direct from God, already has within it, just like a seed already within it, has within it everything that's needful in order to bring about the completion of the idea. It is already within the idea, already within it. That's the power of the idea that comes from God. That's the power of it. And this is what John experienced. He saw the glorified one. He saw the glorified one. And so when you have the idea, what it is that God, Spirit, has intended for you, this glorified idea, I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the seed and the fruit. This is what John realized in regard to this experience. This is what John realized. And so this is why this aspect of getting this clearly in mind, that no matter where you are, no matter what stage of life you are, that the moment you are clear, when that vision breaks in your life, and you are captured by it, and it captures you, you start moving toward it. I like saying that it's like the show Star Trek had the tractor beam, or maybe it was Star Wars, one or the other, had the tractor beam where it was drawing the person into the ship, so to speak. It starts drawing you and you start moving toward it. You call it the law of attraction, same difference. You're moving toward it, it is moving toward you. And everything that you need is also being drawn so that it will converge and coalesce at exactly the same time, because God's Spirit is working, the universe is working in your behalf. That's what happens with consciousness, is the only reality, and assumption hardened into fact, and no one to change but yourself, and staying true to your assumption, staying true to it, and thinking fourth dimensionally. All of these things are the sermons that Neville has. There are others. There are other books that he has. Joseph Murphy, all of this. And what I'm saying is that I'm going to place these on a web page, and I'll give you the name of the web page so that you can get them. And then we're going to have it so that individuals, based on where it is that you are, because we're not trying to overload you, in regard to any of this. The principles are taught by a number of individuals, and I have by no means exhausted all of the people who have taught them. And I'm not the only person that is teaching them today. That's clearly not the case. I'm not saying that at all in regard to that. As a matter of fact, I encourage you to find someone that resonates with you, and it may not be myself. It may not be myself. You want to find someone that you feel good about being taught by being in the company of, all of this kind of stuff. You want to find the right teacher for you. It's a matter of the law of attraction again. What's right for you is right for you. You want to find that individual that's right for you. And it may be right for you today, but may not be right for you tomorrow. That whole piece in regard to that, that is just vital. Everywhere you look, like attracts like. You want to make sure that happens for you. That whole piece in regard to that, because you want to be in when you want to be in the right company. I have what I call the 8 A's. First A is same as the Alpha and Omega. As a matter of fact, we talk about the octave, and octave has 8 items. And the octave goes, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and that whole piece in regard to that. And when you get to the 8th, you're actually at the first. You start all over again. Well, I have my 8 A's, as I call it. The first one is awareness. The second one is acceptance. The third one is assurance. The fourth one is adoration. The fifth one is association. The sixth one is assignment. The seventh one is accountability. And the 8th one is assimilation. Well, the first one, which is awareness, is the same one as assimilation. Awareness is both the beginning and the end. You see in the beginning. If you want to say, when you look at God, it's the Alpha and the Omega. You see the beginning and the end. You see a picture of who it is, or whatever the gift is, or whatever the end result that you want. You become aware of this new idea, this new principle, this new vision that you have of God. You become aware of that. If you have an idea about, say, an amount of money that you want to bring about in your life, you have a vision of, you have an idea of the end. You don't know exactly how you're going to bring it about, but you have an idea of it. It could be a house that you want. It could be a car that you want. It could be whatever. It could be a position that you want. It could be a relationship that you want. You have an idea of it. It changes your whole being. Changes your whole being. It could be values that you want, principles, a way that you want to live your life. That's what we're talking about. Alpha, awareness, consciousness. And you go through a process of growth and development, because otherwise this would all be magic. And there is magic. But it comes through discipline, in my estimation, training, in my estimation. There was a movie a few years ago, a Walt Disney movie, that dealt with, I think it was Mickey Mouse, and it says something about the Sorcerer's Apprentice or something like that. But it was a comic script movie. But it had some deep things there. Basically, it was talking about somebody who's trying to do wonderful things, but they're untrained. I don't believe in that. You wouldn't let somebody that said they did brain surgery and hadn't been trained do brain surgery on your brain. Well, maybe you would, but I wouldn't. I just wouldn't do this. And this is mind change. And saying that if you change your mind, you change everything else about your life. Everything else about your life. That is a mind change that takes place. And so we're doing this particular item, because we are going to have at least 3 or 4 different levels where you can get affirmations. You can have articles. We've got some articles already up. You can see those, I believe, at Rel, REL dash coach, COACH.com, real-coach.com. You can see that there's some articles already there. Now, I'm going to tell you very clearly again that the way the website looks is not the way that we ultimately want it to look. As a matter of fact, you can send me ideas if you like. I'd very much like them. We've got some things that we need to do, and you can be a part of the doing. You can send donations. You can send gifts, buy services, all of these kinds of things. We're going to move this to a very, very high level. That's one of the reasons I want to do all of this, is that we want to reach more people, and do good for more and more and more people. We just want to do it. We are doing good. We have individuals all over the world who are actually listening to the broadcast, downloading it, and we know that it changes individuals' lives. We've already seen that over the years that we are doing this. We know this. This is not something that is new in this sense. It's maybe new to you. You may be the first time you hear me talking or whatever, but it's not new to everybody. So we know that it works. We know absolutely that what we're doing works. And so we want you to actually come about and have this change that takes place in your life. And we may break this up and everything like that because we know people are busy and everything like that. But honestly, to tell you the truth, you have to be intentional about what you're doing here. I make no excuses about that. I've been in school pretty much all of my life. I got degrees galore and still other trainings galore. I don't regret any of it. I might have regretted when my head was hurting and taking courses in calculus and logistic regression, all this kind of stuff, research, all painful from time to time. But, I had to take some aspirin, some Advil, and other things like that in order to get me through that headache or whatever. But I enjoyed learning it, and I enjoyed the whole process and was benefited. And the deeper studies, the spiritual studies I've done, I'm grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful all around in regard to this. I invite you to this journey. Another way that we look at it is the hero's journey. We've got classes galore, 4-year school where you take a set of classes each year. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. And this is not instead of school, like when you would go to school. We have some courses that are looked at from a spiritual perspective, and that's what we want. You still need other skills that help you to fulfill your obligations in society. So this is on top of that. And you'll see, after you've done them, how this all fits in. And that was one of the reasons also I wanted to be involved in school, because what I'm talking about as far as how the world we live in, the third dimensional world and the fourth dimensional world, how all of them fit together. I want to be able to walk this walk with you in regard to this. I mean, I really, really, really do. As I said, I've been in corporate America. I got that job, business to business selling. I did it prior to actually going to school and becoming a minister. I did that corporate selling, business selling, as we call it, for the years 78 and 79, and then went to school full-time in 1982. I already had 2 years of school from going to school part-time, and then graduated in 1982 with my first degree of a BA in theology. That's if you've understood what I've said, we're going to have at realcoach.com. You can already go there, and there are some articles. You can read them. They are right there. You should see them when you get to the site, and you can read them. There are about 20 or 30 of them. You can read them. Take your time. No rush. They're right there. We haven't yet put them in the places where only a few people can see them. They're right there for you. Just go there and read those items that are there. We're going to segment that and others where they're going to be available to individuals. But for right now, they are available to all. And then we're going to segment it so that we have different levels. We're going to have the level that has to do with individuals who are just, they're just there every now and then. And that's what we're going to call practices, and that's going to be something that maybe a person can have access to, maybe like $5, $3 to $5 per month. So no real cost. It's just there. It helps us to be on air, and helps us to pay other bills, get the website up and running, all of those kinds of things. And then we'll have a new level at something between $10 and $15 per month. And that will, again, help us to do other things. We've got videos, classes, all of those kinds of things that make it possible for you to have a deeper level, a deeper dive as far as learning. And then beyond that, we're going to have something like $25 to possibly as much as $47 per month. And so that will give you a wider range of courses that you'll be able to take as well. And remember that I want to make sure that you get more than what you actually invest in this. So I want you to actually get more. I've done classes and paid so much more. Now, when I do classes, I am benefiting. And I want to pour myself into what I'm doing for you. So I want you to make sure that I'm delivering to you what it is that you want, what it is that you need. We're going to have live broadcasts, and then you can just call in and we'll have a conversation. We're going to have live events. And all of this, as soon as we get past this period of time of coronavirus, all of this kind of thing, all of this, we've got some plans that we want to execute in order to benefit our community from all over the world. So this is where we are. This is what we're doing. Bless you. I'm going to end this. Remember, as we say, pray for us in what we're doing, wherever you are. Just make an affirmation, if you will. If you are not accustomed to praying, just affirm, just affirm, both for yourself. I got an affirmation that I do on a continuous basis. Nothing but good can go for me. Nothing but good can return. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And you can put in any spiritual name that you like. I can do all things through the divine, which strengthens me. Here's another one I do. I'm whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. And you keep on saying this over and over and over and over again. And that's another thing. I have a set of names of God, a set of affirmations. All of those things want to make available to you pretty much without cost of it, at minimal cost to anybody, because we want you to be blessed. Even more than you've already been blessed. Again, there is a whole world that is in need of great blessing. The great blessing of a new you. And so blessings to you. Send us an email, info@iwillrestore.com, info@iwillrestore.com. If that doesn't get through, if we don't get back with you in a good period of time, send the email to DL Waters, WATERS, Senior, SR. So that's Dr. D.L. Waters Senior at Dr. D.L. Waters Senior. So you just repeat the same thing both times. The last time you have .com. That's one of our websites. And just make sure that we get it. Don't stop until you make sure that I've got your email. Don't stop until. Again, there's much of this that we're seeking to do. I'm seeking to do a number of things so that we can just keep on benefiting you, keep on benefiting the people. We've been doing this for a while, and very seldom have we even thought about reaching out in such a way that we were encouraging the individual who are listening to actually contribute to the ministry itself. This is more than ministry. This is coaching, as I said. And coaching, you look up executive coaching, you'll be surprised. But I want to pour my life into this world because I know that Spirit is working, God is working, and He's done some great things already for me. And I know He's continuing to work. And then God is looking to expand and to give a greater expression of God's self in this world. Blessing to you. Take care. Bye-bye.